I worked 12-hour shifts at the factory, sometimes longer when overtime was available. Every extra dollar mattered. We were saving for the down payment on a house, or at least I thought we were. The dream was simple, a small place with a yard, maybe room for kids someday, something that was ours. I'd wake up at 4:30 in the morning, careful not to disturb Sarah as I slipped out of bed in the darkness. She'd always stir just enough to mumble, "Love you," before falling back asleep, and I'd kiss her forehead, feeling like the luckiest man alive. My wife Sarah always seemed supportive, the kind of partner I thought only existed in movies. She'd pack my lunches with little notes tucked inside. "You're my hero, can't wait to see you tonight," sometimes just a smiley face and her initial. I'd find them at lunch break, sitting in the noisy factory cafeteria, and they'd make the exhaustion feel worth it. She'd kiss me goodbye at dawn on the days she woke up early enough, standing in her bathrobe at the door, waving as I backed out of the driveway. I trusted her completely, deeply, in that bone-deep way you trust someone you've built a life with. We'd been married for 4 years, together for 7. High school sweethearts who actually made it work, or so everyone said. Our friends envied us. Her parents loved me. My parents adored her. We had movie nights on Fridays, took walks on Sunday mornings, talked about baby names even though we weren't ready yet. Everything felt solid, permanent, real. Then my shift got cut short one Tuesday because of a machinery breakdown. The main hydraulic press had failed, spewing oil across the production floor, and management sent half of us home while they waited for repairs. I came home at noon instead of 7, pulling into our apartment complex with that slightly guilty feeling you get when you're somewhere you're not supposed to be during the day, like playing hooky from school. The neighbor's car was in our driveway. Marcus. He lived 3 doors down with his wife and 2 kids. We'd had barbecues together, shared tools, made small talk about sports and weather. His silver Honda was parked right behind Sarah's car, angled carelessly like he'd been in a hurry. My stomach dropped, but I pushed the feeling away. Maybe his car was broken down. Maybe he needed to borrow something. Maybe Sarah was helping his wife with something. 1,000 innocent explanations flooded my mind because that's what you do when you love someone. You give them every possible benefit of the doubt. I walked to the front door quietly, my work boots suddenly feeling heavy. The door was unlocked. I stepped inside, and that's when I heard it, laughter from upstairs. Her laugh, bright and carefree, the one I loved. And his laugh, deeper, intimate in a way that made my blood run cold. Then silence, the kind of silence that speaks louder than words. My hands shook as I stood in my own hallway, listening to my marriage crumble above my head. The stairs creaked slightly. I knew which steps made noise. I'd walked them thousands of times. I could hear movement now, soft sounds that confirmed what I already knew but didn't want to believe. My heart hammered so hard I thought they might hear it. I didn't confront them. Something inside me went very still and very cold. I quietly left, pulling the door closed with agonizing care, walking back to my truck like a man in a dream. I drove down the street and parked behind a dumpster near the complex entrance where I could see our apartment but wouldn't be noticed. I waited. 47 minutes. I counted every one. Finally, Marcus emerged, looking relaxed, checking his phone as he walked to his car. He didn't glance around nervously. He didn't look guilty. He looked comfortable, like this was routine. That hurt worse than anything. After he drove away, I waited another 20 minutes, letting my hands stop shaking, letting my breathing return to normal. Then I drove home again, this time making noise, slamming the truck door, taking the creaky stairs heavily. Sarah greeted me normally, smiling from the kitchen where she was starting dinner prep. "You're home early. Everything okay?" She wore different clothes than this morning. I noticed. Her hair was damp from a shower. I noticed. She kissed my cheek like nothing had happened, asking about my day with genuine seeming concern, and I played along, telling her about the machinery breakdown while watching her lie to my face. That's when I knew this wasn't new. The ease of her deception, the freshly showered appearance in the middle of the day, Marcus's comfortable familiarity with our home, the way she didn't even flinch, it all pointed to something established, practiced, routine. The betrayal had layers, depth, history. This had been going on while I worked myself to exhaustion for our future. While I saved every penny and skipped lunches to put more in the house fund. While I read her little notes and felt grateful. That night, lying beside her in the darkness, listening to her peaceful breathing, I made a decision. I wouldn't react in anger. I wouldn't give her the satisfaction of seeing me broken. I would be patient, methodical, and when I moved, it would be devastating. I became a ghost in my own life, watchful and silent. The man who came home from the factory each evening was a performance, a carefully constructed mask of the husband I used to be. I smiled at Sarah's dinner table conversation. I laughed at her jokes. I held her hand while we watched television. But inside, I was documenting everything, cataloging every inconsistency, every lie, every moment she thought she was getting away with it. I started varying my schedule, coming home at unexpected times. I'd tell Sarah I was working late, then circle back an hour early. Marcus's car appeared in our driveway with alarming frequency. Tuesdays and Thursdays like clockwork, sometimes Fridays if his wife took the kids to her mother's house. I watched from different vantage points around the complex, taking photos with my phone, noting times and dates in a small notebook I kept hidden in my truck. 2 days after my discovery, I hired a private investigator with money from my secret account, the one Sarah didn't know about. I'd opened it 3 years ago when my grandfather died and left me $15,000. I'd never told her about the inheritance, something that had felt wrong at the time but now seemed like providence. The investigator's name was Rebecca Chen, a former police detective with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense attitude. I need everything, I told her in her small office across town. Photos, timeline, evidence that would hold up in court. She didn't ask if I was sure. She'd seen this story 1,000 times. Give me 2 weeks, she said. Those 2 weeks were the longest of my life. I worked my shifts, came home, played the devoted husband while rage burned in my chest like acid. Sarah seemed happier than usual, humming while she cooked, talking about redecorating the living room. She mentioned we should dip into our savings for a new couch. I agreed, knowing she'd already dipped into far more than that. Rebecca called me on day 13. You'll want to sit down for this, she said. We met at a coffee shop on my lunch break. She slid a thick manila envelope across the table. Inside was my marriage's autopsy. Dozens of time-stamped photos of Marcus entering and leaving our apartment, images of them together at restaurants I couldn't afford, hotel parking lot footage showing them checking in together. On days I worked doubles. There's more, Rebecca said quietly. I accessed your joint credit card statements. You're an authorized user, so it's legal. Your wife has been using that card for 8 months. She showed me the records. My hands trembled as I flipped through pages of charges. The Riverside Hotel, $300, multiple visits. Antonio's Italian Restaurant, $215. Victoria's Secret, $189. A weekend at a bed and breakfast upstate, $760. Charges and charges and charges, all on days I was working, all for amounts that made my factory wages look pathetic. What about our savings account? I asked, though I already feared the answer. Rebecca's expression told me everything. I had a contact check. You had $18,700 in that account 3 months ago, according to the statements I could access. As of yesterday, there's $1,200 left. The coffee shop seemed to tilt. $17,000. Gone. Money I'd earned through burned hands and aching backs, through missed family events and sacrificed sleep. Every overtime shift, every skipped meal, every time I'd bought the cheaper brand or worn my boots until they had holes, all of it converted into her affair. She'd literally spent our future on betraying me. "I'm sorry," Rebecca said, and she meant it. I consulted a divorce attorney that same afternoon, using my lunch break and calling in sick for the rest of my shift, the first time I'd done that in 3 years. The lawyer, David Hutchins, reviewed Rebecca's evidence with practiced efficiency. "Your state has alienation of affection laws still on the books," he said. "And financial infidelity is treated seriously in divorce proceedings. You could sue the neighbor too, if you wanted, though I'd focus on protecting your assets first." Over the next week, following David's instructions, I methodically dismantled our shared financial life. I opened a new bank account at a different bank across town. I called HR and had my direct deposit rerouted there, explaining I was opening a high-yield savings account. They didn't need to know the truth. I gathered every financial record from our apartment when Sarah went grocery shopping, copying bank statements, credit card bills, the deed to her car that I'd co-signed for. David found a legal loophole. Since I was the primary account holder on our savings and could prove fraudulent charges made without my knowledge, I could transfer what remained into an account solely in my name for protection pending legal proceedings. I moved that last $1,200, then I did something that felt both cruel and justified. I stopped paying our bills. The rent, the electricity, the water, the internet. I let 'em all lapse. Sarah never checked the accounts. She'd always trusted me to handle the finances while she handled the home. The irony wasn't lost on me. When the late notices started arriving, I intercepted them from the mailbox each day, storing them in my truck's glove compartment. I watched her continue her affair, watched her spend money we didn't have on clothes and makeup, watched her check her phone and smile at messages she thought I couldn't see. She had no idea the ground was crumbling beneath her feet, and I waited, patient as stone, for everything to collapse. The eviction notice came on a Monday, taped to our apartment door in a bright orange envelope that couldn't be missed. I'd timed my arrival home perfectly, pulling into the parking lot just as Sarah discovered it. I watched from my truck as she ripped it open, her face transforming from confusion to panic as she read the words, 30 days to vacate for non-payment of rent, 3 months overdue. She was on her phone immediately, calling me. I let it ring twice before answering, keeping my voice carefully concerned. "Hey, what's up? The rent? We're being evicted. How is this possible? Why haven't you paid rent?" Her voice pitched high with hysteria. I walked toward the apartment, phone still pressed to my ear, watching her stand there in the doorway. "I've been meaning to tell you," I said, my voice flat and defeated. "I got fired 3 weeks ago. The factory let me go during downsizing. I've been too ashamed to say anything. It was a lie, a perfect lie. I'd worked every single shift, even picked up extra hours. But Sarah had no way to verify it. She'd never called my workplace, never showed interest in the details of my job beyond how much money it brought in." Her face crumpled. "Fired. 3 weeks. Why didn't you tell me?" Then the reality hit her. "Oh my God, the bills, the rent, what are we going to do?" "I don't know," I said simply, walking past her into the apartment. "I've been looking for work, but nothing yet. We're broke, Sarah, completely broke." I watched her panic unfold over the next hour. She checked our bank accounts on her laptop, her face going white when she saw the balances. Nearly zero in our joint checking, the savings account she'd pillaged now empty and closed. She didn't know about my new account, growing fat with 3 weeks of redirected paychecks. Then she did exactly what I knew she would. She went into our bedroom, closed the door, and called Marcus. Our apartment walls were thin, and I'd strategically positioned myself in the hallway. I heard every word. "Marcus, I need help. We're being evicted, and I don't know what to do." Her voice was small, vulnerable, the same voice she'd used with me when we first started dating. "Could you maybe loan us some money? Just until we get back on our feet." The pause was long. Then I heard her voice change, becoming desperate. "Please, I know this is complicated, but I thought we meant something to each other. Another pause. Then her voice broke. You have to help me. Marcus. Marcus. Please don't. I heard her start crying. Heard the phone hit the floor. He'd hung up on her. Marcus, it seemed, was only interested in the affair when it was convenient and risk-free. The moment it threatened to touch his comfortable life with his wife and kids, Sarah became disposable. I gave her 10 minutes to compose herself, then knocked softly on the bedroom door. You okay? Fine, she said, but her voice was thick with tears. That night, she barely spoke. She pushed food around her plate, checked her phone obsessively, probably hoping Marcus would call back, apologize, save her. He didn't. I went to bed early, listening to her cry softly in the living room, and felt nothing but cold satisfaction. The next morning, I woke up before dawn as usual. I made coffee, buttered toast, and waited. Sarah emerged from the bedroom at 7, eyes puffy and red. She sat down across from me at our small kitchen table. I slid the envelope across to her. What's this? She asked, her voice hoarse. Open it. Her hands shook as she pulled out the divorce papers. I watched her face as she read, watched comprehension dawn slowly. The petition for divorce, citing adultery. The next page. Printed photos from Rebecca's investigation. Sarah and Marcus kissing in a restaurant booth. Entering the Riverside Hotel. His car in our driveway with timestamps. The credit card statements, highlighted in yellow, showing every dollar she'd stolen from our future. How long have you known? She whispered. Long enough, I said. Long enough to protect myself. This isn't fair. Fair. The word came out harder than I intended. You spent $17,000 of our money on him. You destroyed 4 years of marriage, 7 years together. You made me feel crazy for trusting you. And you want to talk about fair? She started crying again, reaching for my hand. I pulled away. There's more, I said quietly. I sent everything to Marcus's wife too. Every photo, every receipt, every hotel visit. She deserved to know what her husband was doing while she took care of their kids. Sarah's face went ashen. You didn't. I did. Yesterday. I imagine she's filing for divorce today too. She texted me last night to thank me. Said she'd suspected but needed proof. My phone buzzed. Right on cue. I showed Sarah the screen. A text from a lawyer confirming Marcus's wife had indeed filed for divorce and was seeking full custody and the house. You destroyed his life, Sarah said, her voice barely audible. No, I corrected. You both destroyed your own lives. I just made sure there were consequences. I stood up, picking up the keys to my truck. I'm moving out today. I have an apartment across town. Been secured for 2 weeks now. The movers will be here in an hour for my stuff. Everything with my name on it, everything from my family, it's all going with me. Where am I supposed to go? That's not my problem anymore. Maybe your mother's house. Maybe Marcus will suddenly grow a conscience. Maybe you'll figure it out the way I had to figure out how to keep living after watching you betray me. She called me 17 times that day as the movers emptied our apartment of everything that mattered. The TV we'd saved for. The furniture my parents gave us as a wedding gift. My grandfather's watch that she'd tried pouring once when she thought I wouldn't notice. Rebecca had uncovered that too, a pawn shop receipt from 2 months ago that I'd quietly retrieved. I answered on the 18th call, mainly to make it stop. You destroyed us, she sobbed into the phone. You destroyed everything. I stood in my new apartment, boxes stacked neatly around me, sunlight streaming through windows that overlooked a park. It was smaller than what we'd had, but it was mine, paid for with money she'd never touched. No, Sarah, I said calmly. You did that. You made the choice to betray me every single day for 8 months. You spent our future on hotel rooms and expensive dinners. You destroyed us. I just made sure you lost everything the way I did. I hung up before she could respond. Over the next few weeks, I heard through mutual friends what happened. Marcus's wife had indeed filed for divorce, taking the house and primary custody of their children. Marcus moved into a studio apartment, his reputation in the neighborhood destroyed. Sarah moved back to her mother's house 3 states away, our friends quietly taking sides, most of them mine once they learned the truth. I got promoted at work 2 months later. My supervisor had noticed my increased dedication, the extra shifts I'd been taking. The raise was substantial, enough that I started seriously looking at houses again, this time just for me. Sometimes revenge isn't loud or dramatic. Sometimes it's just watching karma collect what it's owed while you rebuild in peace, brick by brick, paycheck by paycheck. I never spoke to Sarah again after that final phone call. The divorce was finalized 4 months later, uncontested once her lawyer saw the evidence. I kept Rebecca's business card, though, not for me, but I've recommended her to 3 other people since then, men and women who suspected but needed proof. She tells me she's busier than ever. As for me, I still wake up at 4:30 in the morning. I still work hard, still save money. But now when I come home, there's no one lying to my face, no one spending my future behind my back. There's just peace, quiet, and the solid satisfaction of knowing that I didn't just survive betrayal. I dismantled it methodically and walked away stronger. The house fund is growing again. This time, it's just for me. And nobody can touch it.